Hello there, and welcome to Successfully Depressed. And I'm your host, Kerry. This show is all about helping solopreneurs navigate mental and physical health in life and business. Today's guest is Kent Lewis. Kent Lewis is currently the Chief Marketing Officer for the Anvil Deksia company, where he is responsible for the overall strategic direction of marketing, including everything involving messaging and integration of the combined entities. Well, welcome to the show, Kent Lewis.
Thank you for having me, Kerry. It's always a pleasure to connect with you.
Yeah, and we've known each other for, I don't know, maybe 2006 or something.
Yeah.
I was involved with the company called City Search, which was kind of an old school version of Yelp, we'll say. And you were already doing Anvil and in the internet marketing space. I joined SEM PDX at one point, which was an organization that you co-founded, and then I later got involved as an advisor. And then through the years, we just different networking groups like PDX Mindshare you started, and we both enjoy talking to people and networking. So we've been out there for a bit. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Can't wait to get into it.
So let's tell the listeners a little bit about who you are and how you got to this point today.
Sure. So I'm, I would say in short, an entrepreneur by de facto, in that I've been a part of 10 agencies. I've co-founded 2, founded 2. But the getting fired from 2 was the part that pushed me into entrepreneurship. I started in high-tech PR back in 94, and then in 95 I moved to Portland, where I knew one person, my cousin. Moved to a high-tech PR firm, and in about a year, I, by personal interest, started pursuing what's this internet thing and how do you market on it. Ended up doing some trade and kind work with a sister web dev agency, and by mid-96 they're like, why don't you just move downstairs to the sister agency and be our marketing person? I was like, sure, you bet. So back then there were no conferences or books on what internet marketing was. Before it was called digital marketing, it was internet marketing or web marketing. So I was self-taught on SEO. There wasn't any advertising yet. Banner ads, I didn't really fall under the search arm. They're still under traditional advertising or advertising. And so I was self-taught, and I started sharing some of my insights in a weekly newsletter I called Anvil Media, because my employer, Vivo Media, had a cool industrial name, and I thought there was an available domain, and I took that, ran that as initially it was under them, it was a business purpose to educate people on what's going on with the internet. And as I changed agencies 3 more times, I decided to buy the domain myself and own it as more of a lifestyle creative outlet, and it became a monthly e-zine from basically 2000 to 2006. And then getting married, having kids, meant that was one of the few things I sacrificed. But I basically have been building teams of digital marketers since roughly 1997 at a bunch of different agencies, and I'm now as part of Anvil Deksia, or Deksia more specifically. That's my 10th agency I've been involved with, and just reduced my entrepreneur role to just marketing. Being 50 years or older, it's been a long run, and I'm happy to diminish my scope and have a healthier, mentally happier world at this.
Yeah. Now, was it a merger or acquisition?
So technically, it was an acquisition. It was an asset purchase of Deksia, of Anvil by Deksia, a Midwest-based agency. They're roughly 3 times our size at the time of the acquisition in March. So Anvil was around 22 years. My online networking group, was offline, now online networking group, PDX Mindshare you mentioned earlier, was created originally in 1999. So that's still running. I've been an adjunct professor at Portland State since 2000. I'm still actively a resource for them. So I'm not afraid of commitment, but I did decide that 22 years of running teams, doing sales, account support, and marketing was getting a bit onerous, and it seemed like a good time to switch over and sell the business. Externally, it was communicated as a merger because that's how they treat it. They wanted to take the best of the processes, the tools, the clients, and create a super Deksia, a super agency, and they've largely been able to do a lot of that versus just we automatically get sucked into their process and culture and tough patooties. It's been much more of a collaboration, so we're acting like it's a merger, basically.
That's good. Yeah, it can be really hard to combine those different cultures, and it's also hard to sell a business. I went through that before too, and just trying to figure out what all the assets are worth and the whole valuation. Now you have to look at all the different assets. You probably are looking at your revenue and Xing that over a certain period of time to kind of get the idea of what something's worth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I've had conversations with potential acquirers since about 2006 or seven. It's been a long journey, and many conversations. In fact, in 2018 or 19, I was this close to selling the business. At the 11th hour, I was at the auto show, decided to buy a car. Actually, that was in 2019. We were at the last bits. I was like, if I'm going to get this race car or just high-end performance car I don't need but want, am I okay if the deal gets scuttled for whatever reason? I decided absolutely. And I scuttled the deal 2 days later. So it was, I think, definitely the right move. And I believe this Deksia merger acquisition was the right move. And I still have the car, I still enjoy it, but I also built up far more value in terms of valuation, which is typically a profit multiple versus a much lower revenue multiple. I built a better business in that time that was worth more, and was actually a better acquisition for Deksia because everybody was happy and clients are happy. It was just better for everybody.
Yeah, I think you're also in a nice spot too, because I know for me, with when I sold Taplister, I was then hired back to work for it for a year or two, and that took a lot of pressure off of me, and it kind of refueled my energy for it for a bit. It's just kind of a nice thing. Even though your baby is not really yours anymore, you still have the ability to be involved with it and kind of leave on your terms.
Right. And so for your listeners, many may not know the average tenure of a entrepreneur who sells their business is 12 months. And my goal was to stick around for 4 to 10 years. The amount of the earn out plus however much longer I'm having fun. It could be another 20 years, as long as I can function and speak and write and enjoy what I do. And I still think that's still my target. And I would be surprised if I didn't make it a year, because there's a benefit for me as a milepost to make it at least a year, just to make sure I've maximized the return of the deal. But I could still leave today and get the same deal just without the paycheck. And I think it's good. Mainly I'm sticking around for my team and for my clients. I want that continuity for them to have a nice soft landing. And the last 5+ almost 6 months has been a lot of work to integrate and have conversations and assuage and excite. But it's been very rewarding to see it move arguably as fast as it has, to get people like, honeymoon's over, I'm still here, let's go,
What's great about your situation is that you've done the entrepreneurial thing, and you're still involved with it, but now you can kind of figure out what do you want to do next. And I think mental health, that's really something that's this podcast is about mental health in business. And so figuring out when is the right time for you to kind of think about, okay, now it's time for me to kind of spend more time either with my family or work on some stuff for my own personal development. So I guess, are there things that you're kind of excited about in kind of a personal development space that you're in right now or hope to be in soon?
Yeah, I found it interesting that I no longer care about certain emails or inquiries around cash flow management, leadership growth. Those sort of things are not really a concern of mine anymore. My interests have shifted towards how am I going to be the best chief marketing officer, CMO that I can be for Deksia, and support their sales indirectly and support their clients and account teams as an advisor. I really enjoy being an advisor, mentor type, and that's what I'm going to try and do without stepping on toes in the process, right? Because having been in my defined role for so long, it's been a bit of a change. But I will tell you, right now I just feel like I'm fortunate to be able to have a much more manageable, lower stress day, because as you said, Kerry, with your change to employee, there's a stability there that arguably, and I'm not worried about cash flow and other people's paychecks right now. It doesn't mean it's not a concern at all. Of course, I'm concerned as a equity owner in Deksia that we continue on, and I care about all these new people in my extended family. But I think if we were harking back to I had to make a major change in terms of mental health. This was the tail end. This was a champagne glass after a 22-year run. I wasn't, other than my wife's mental health of getting out of the operational role, it wasn't a major change for me other than emotionally, like, can I, as you said, give up my baby? And I'm surprised at how easy it has been. There's still much work ahead, but all of my pain happened back in late 2012 and early 2013 when I fell out of love with my business and my team, and the work, and I had to make a change. I was mentally at the end of my rope. I was exhausted. I was frustrated. I was pissed off. And I know I had to make a change. And so that's when I did a lot of my heavy work, was back then.
Yeah, and that's a good segue into what you call your Jerry Maguire moment. And this was in 2013. Your business was doing well, but you kind of felt like the business wasn't innovating as much, and you just kind of have a different vision. You weren't really sure what's all going on with employees, what they were excited about anymore, what you were excited about anymore. So tell us a little bit about how you manifested this Jerry Maguire moment.
Yeah, so, what ended up happening is 2011 and 12 were our biggest years in terms of revenue and profit. We were really only 14, so not a huge number. When we sold in March of this year, we were at 11 employees, so we weren't that much smaller, but we were another $1 million or more in revenue, because we had some big ass clients like Borders Books and some others, Real Networks, and that kept our team really busy. A couple of truths: if you're so busy doing the work, you're probably not thinking about other things, for better or for worse. So my team, it wasn't idle minds. They were too busy and they were getting paid well. Everything seemed to be I thought I was in a Ferrari cruising down the freeway at 150. What I had, more hair back then, billowing in the breeze. But then at the end of 2012, I was hearing from my team, I don't think our structure is working, but they didn't have a good answer for it per se. They had some ideas, which we ended up actually implementing 6 to 9 months later. I wish we'd done it sooner. And then the other was Google telling us the way we're running our accounts, our ads, which was a majority of our revenue, wasn't relevant. We weren't staying up with the times in terms of our bid strategies. And then the third and final strike was in early 2013. I was at a industry conference called SMX, sat next to the head of digital for Home Depot, and I felt like he was talking a different language. And granted, I started in search in '96, and here it was 2012. And I was like, what is he talking about? How is this all new to me? I felt disgusted with myself and concerned for the company and my team that I wasn't hearing that language from them. So, I went back to the team, and I don't think there was a huge level of interest in innovating, as you said, or catching up without making some other changes to the culture, some of the people mix, some of the client mix. And so it just kind of lagged for another couple months until my Jerry Maguire moment, sitting with my son in his bunk bed as he's nodding off, and I'm staring at the ceiling, I need a reason to go to work tomorrow. I don't even want to go to work anymore. And I stayed up till 1 a.m. writing, what are the truths, the absolute truths I need to come back to work? And I wrote 50 of them, slept on it, woke up in the morning a little bit energized, a lot excited about what the potential was of finding a block, an area to play in a box. I'm not normally a box person, but I needed that clarity, where are we going to play moving forward? Distilled that into what I called a credo of 10 truths. Slept on it one more night. I've been getting feedback from some people in the space and my EO network and some other business coaches, and I unveiled it to the team the very next day, so 2 days later, and said you have 72 hours to sign this as a contract saying, I believe these to be true. I'm here and willing to ride this thing out and see where it takes us with this newfound definition. The problem was, for many of my team that have been with me 5 to 10 years, we had grown and changed, but I think we were not growing together, meaning when they saw the credo as the last straw, I changed the rules on them and they didn't like the new rules. They didn't like the new game. So half of my 14 employees left in the first week. The rest left over the following year. I don't think one employee might have made it 2 years. I made 2 critical hires within that first week. A new operations person that found the credo and found us, quit their job to work for us. And then I made a call to a longtime friend from years earlier to be our VP of sales. And he was with me for 9 years up until the Deksia merger, and he didn't feel that new entity was a good fit for him, so he moved on. And what I've learned is that's okay. I think the key is, as long as you're growing together and see the potential as employees going towards a greater good, then keep working on it. But if you see yourselves going apart, much like a marriage or any relationship, and you can't reconcile those differences in values, or mostly it's values, rarely is it morals or ethics or something like that. That was never really the issue. Then why fight it, right? Do yourself both a favor, cut the tie, move on, and then maybe you can retain that friendship, that relationship. I think that Anvil was such a tight-knit family. It was so emotionally charged that I have not talked to most of those people that left since they left. I think they felt they needed to absolutely cold turkey it, which I find interesting considering they did, I believe, their best work at Anvil. There was a lot of pushing and compromising to be made to get to that excellent level of work, and I think maybe they found that they didn't need to continue to put that effort out. So whatever the case is, I have high standards for my family. I want them to do well after I leave, after we part ways. But the new people that came in more and more over time totally aligned with that credo, and we don't even talk about it anymore because it's in our hiring process. And it's just, we live it every day. There was no more reason to keep hitting people over the head with it, because those people, the new employees that we have today and have had since 13, signed on inherently knowing that was the deal. And I never changed the deal after that because it met the needs of our clients and where we were going.
Well, sometimes when you're working somewhere, things don't always align. Like, let's say, like the analogy I've been using lately is Chris Paul going to the Phoenix Suns, and he was able to have a good group of people around him and really show his skills, and he's been shining in Phoenix. Before that, he did okay and everything, but sometimes you're on the wrong team or something, or if you're the leader and you want to change kind of the organizational structure and not everyone's going to buy into it, then it's not good for everyone to be there anymore, as tough as it can be.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that was the hardest point for me, was the day after, the next morning after I wrote the credo, a day before I unveiled it to the team, my 10-year most seasoned employee, from intern to vice president, gave me notice when we were doing our regular walking one-on-one. And I said, hey, I get it. I'm unhappy. I know that you were put in a seat that you have struggled with, meaning she went from a brilliant account person and strategist to manager. And what I've learned with Strengths Finder and Freak Factor is it's not the right seat on the bus. I think that's the wrong metaphor from Tim Collins. It's the right seat on the boat. If we're not all pulling and we're not in harmony, then somebody catches what they call a crab and crew and they get not launched out of the boat. And I think I put her, instead of being coxswain, she could have been a lead rower, meaning people loved and respected her until she became their manager. And then they just were like, nah, I don't want this. And it hurt her deeper to her soul. She's a high empath. And so I said, just check out my credo, sleep on it. If you don't like where this is going, I don't blame you for leaving. And she slept on it. It's like, it's too late for me, I'm damaged. She was deeply hurt by the team she managed that she cared so much about, that she so respected up until a incident with a movie. We had a movie watching with Jiro Dreams of Sushi. I highly recommend it. It's a great allegory for excellence, and a lot of the team members took it the wrong way. Instead of a beautiful movie that it is, and it led to her ultimately getting burned out. So I think that's where, when you lose people that are like your family, you've raised these people in the career, it really hurt me, despite the fact I could look back and say we set some great goals together. She achieved some amazing life goals, and I got to see it and I got to be a part of it. But to end the way it did was deeply saddening to me, and there's still a few people that have left that I still feel burned, like why didn't we work this out? Maybe we could have worked it out, but now that I've sold, a lot of that I can let go of. It's no longer relevant. Maybe I care too much, but I didn't show it in the right ways.
Well, I think the hard thing too is that often we become, our identities are often our businesses.
Yes.
And so things can be taken more personally, or if you're transitioning away from that, and that was like your life for so long, it's kind of like, who am I now?
Yeah.
I think, was it in Zoolander when he looks into the puddle or something and he's like, who am I? Or something like that. But on a random note here, I got to bring this up here. You got a TLC shirt on there.
Yes. Oh, this is a good story. So this is from a 8-bit arcade called Headquarters, and that's their logo, the little buffering Space Invader thing.
Oh.
And it's on each
Isn't
of their
that in Southeast Portland?
I don't know no, there's Quarter World, I think, here. But Headquarters, there's one in Nashville and there's one in Chicago. And I happen to have been, there may be others, but I first went to the one in Nashville, and big fan of TLC and 80s music, 80s, 90s music.
Crazy, sexy, cool.
Huge impact album. And so the bartender was wearing this t-shirt. I was like, dude, that is a dope t-shirt. And the kid's like 19. He's like, yeah, I don't even know who they are. And I was like, what? You don't know TLC? He's like, yeah, I don't know. It's not my shtick. And I was like, dude, that is the coolest shirt ever. He's like, looking at my shirt. It's an old, tattered skate shirt, an RCVA skate shirt that had an interesting design, but it literally had holes in it. He's like, dude, I'll totally trade you shirts. And I was like, done. So he gave me one other gift shop, and I went in the bathroom, changed, and gave him my smelly old ratty shirt. He was stoked. So that's how I got this shirt. And I get compliments on this probably more than almost any other shirt I own. And
that's awesome.
And it was a straight exchange. So I'm pretty happy with that.
Literally gave you the shirt off of his back.
Yes.
Okay. And vice versa.
Yes.
Well, that's good. Yeah. Was it one of those kind of places where it's like a bar?
It's a bar, and as long as you drink, the games are free. And unlike like in Bend and other places where you pay to have access or you pay per play, it's just all free, including pinball games. They have a wall of cassette tapes that it's like an art installation. I'm in love with that place. If you're ever in Nashville or Chicago, definitely check it out. And there's one thing I do want to say about the health and wellness thing, because of the theme, is I found that there are like at least 3 legs to a stool of being able to, as an entrepreneur or solopreneur, to run a business. And if you take, and I say 3 because if you take one off, you can fall. You have to have really strong core to hold yourself up on 2 legs, right? So I've found, this isn't any books I've read, just my experience. If your home life, if you're married, girlfriend, boyfriend, single, but, doing whatever makes, like, just your emotional life, your emotional needs are getting taken care of through friends and family, significant other, that's huge. That is the biggest leg. And then the most underreported leg that we've learned at, more through a lot of reading and sciences is your personal health, the physical health, mental health. So are you sleeping enough? Are you eating right? Are you talking to people if you need to talk to them that are maybe professionals and not just friends and family? That's a big one. The third one for me is the business running reasonably well, meaning there's profit to be paid back. You're getting a livable salary, so are your employees, if you have them. That's really important to me. So what I found happening over a 22-year period is there were a couple points where 2 of the 3 legs were kicked out from under me. I'm proud to say that for the most part, unlike many of my entrepreneur friends in EO, entrepreneur organization, agency owners, and industry folks I know from digital like you, is they tend to sacrifice their health first, and I never have. I don't need as much sleep as others, but pre-COVID, I was probably averaging 7 hours a week sleep, almost 7 hours. After COVID, it's 7.5 to 8 hours. I decided sleep was more important. Even if I didn't feel I needed it, I would take it. The other is, diet and exercise. I probably exercise 7 days a week in some fashion. So I know that I'm not that leg is nearly impossible. The only way you can nick at it is put me in a weird location where I can't really work out and I can only eat shitty food. So like a Disneyland, then that might be a problem, but at least you're walking all day. The other is when my relationship has been tough at home and at work, I actually dive into I try to eat better, exercise instead of drinking more and lazing on the couch. So trying to balance those 3. And you could argue there's probably a 4th one. I mean, if you're spiritual or you could pick something else, that's fine. For me, it was those 3 legs, and every once in a while, I was missing one, and somebody started kicking at one of the others, and I'd be like, oh no. And so in 13, that's where I felt. It wasn't, at home wasn't really the big issue, wasn't necessarily my health, but with the business taking a big old poop, I felt if everything else wasn't perfect, I couldn't weather it. And so that's where I felt I had to make a change.
Yeah, and one of the challenges too, being an entrepreneur, it's harder to have someone to talk to. I mean, you obviously talk to your friends and family, and that can be helpful, but you also need to have people to kind of bounce ideas off of, like whether it's like a mastermind group, or I know that you were in a number of like EO, you were in startups. What's
Starbucks,
that group called?
Yeah.
Startups, yeah. I know you're a member of a number of those. And I'm assuming that those probably kept you grounded.
Oh, absolutely. I think EO, Entrepreneur Organization, the Portland chapter of the global 15,000 business owners. It's a nonprofit. You can go to, I think, eonetwork.org or eoportland.com. For the local chapter, it has been, since '07, has been a huge crutch for me. And then I have this other group, Agency Roundtable, which is a bunch of Portland agencies, many of which compete. And we don't talk rates. There's no collusion. It's just best practices, HR, sales, marketing, what's coming down the pipe. That's been huge for me. And then, like you said, back in the day, it was when I was active in startups. That was hugely helpful from that starving startup approach to life, where we were all very thrifty back in the early mid 2000s. So I've had that balance. I had an advisory board for 7 years at Anvil. That also helped. So I have not relied on just myself. I think the biggest challenge I hear from entrepreneurs is, whether they realize it or not, is they feel very alone. And I realized, not only did I have EO and all these other resources, I still, once I became an employee, started kvetching like crazy to the head of HR, because I never had somebody to talk to for 22 years about just little things besides my wife, and I realized I can burn her out. So I just internalized it. So being able to like share it, like at a really cathartic weekly leadership team meeting, I got to vent things that have been on my mind for between 5 months and 15 years, but as it related to my success at Deksia, Anvil, and I felt just being heard and thank you for sharing that. Let's work on that. Like, thank you, because I had to listen to everybody else, but I could never share back as an owner, and it's a really tough place to be.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, when you're owner of a business, you're the janitor, you're everything, and if someone doesn't show up, it's up to you. You don't have the of someone that's worked somewhere for 20 years with a great 401k, and that's, for some people, that's what they want to do. People are wired differently, and for some people, being an entrepreneur doesn't make sense. Other people, like you and me, we like it, and there's that a little bit sense of craziness to it, of course, and like you like that roller coaster ride for its ups and downs sometimes, but and that's where it can be hard to talk to sometimes friends and families who don't have businesses, because they don't quite get what you're dealing with, and they can at the end of the day go home and I'm away from my laptop, I'm away from my email, I'm living my life, and so that's one of the challenges of being an entrepreneur. So one of the things I've been also talking to people about in this podcast is encouraging people to start something. It doesn't even have to be a business, but it could be like a podcast or what, just learn and do something. And then also looking at, is something you want to start? Is it a hobby? Is it like a side hustle, or is it a business? Because I know in the past I've done things before that definitely aren't businesses, and I thought they were, and they clearly were not. And they were more just kind of an idea, and it wasn't fully thought through. One thing that I like to do if I'm really going to commit to something is I like to write like a one-page business plan on what I'm wanting to do, and so then I can kind of think about it and see if is this something that even makes sense, versus just kind of going with, I have this great idea and everything. So I guess, what are some of the things that you've done to kind of keep you grounded with any project you started? It could be the Anvil newsletter, it could be PDX Mindshare.
So I, in college, came up with a mission statement for myself, which is really unusual because I didn't really put a lot of thought to my life up until after college. But I was all about, I liked, even in college, to like entertain first and foremost, and then maybe educate others. And so there was this kind of like, if I'm not educating or entertaining people, I'm probably not doing my job. And I carried that in spades through my early career. And the one thing I added once I'd been here for maybe 10 years, and about just 5 years, was I moved here, and I mentioned at the top of the podcast, I knew one person, my cousin, who was already living here. And now I would say I know a couple thousand people, maybe, I don't know. But I know a lot of people in Portland. And it was just this whole networking thing I did. Then I realized what I enjoyed, why I started PDX Mindshare and kept with it, was I enjoyed meeting people. Then I enjoyed problem solving and or connecting them with others that could problem solve for them. So I became a connector, as Malcolm Gladwell would say. So my revised mission statement the past 25 plus years has been to inform, connect, and entertain. So when I'm speaking at Digital Summit in Minneapolis later this week, I'm definitely educating them. I'm going to entertain them no matter what. I can't help it. Even when people don't want to be entertained, I'm going to do it. And then arguably, I might even be able to connect some dots, connect some people, whatever it is. But if I'm doing those three things, or even one of those are the three legs of my stool of focus on how I make decisions, particularly in business, but also in life. It makes everything really clear. That's why I've kept Mindshare for 20-something years. That's why I've been an adjunct professor when I thought I should quit, because I'm educating. It's that important to me to inform people, and it's been true to my brand. So and then I'm always going to be entertaining, and just in my interactions, I enjoy that the most probably. So if I can't do those things, one of the or more of those things with a given business decision, I'm probably not going to do it. And it's been very interesting. Instead of, does it leverage synergies? Does it create a 5x revenue multiple? I don't give a shit about any of that. I mean, I did at some point, and I still, as a owner and leadership team member at Deksia, I do care about those things and want to provide my guidance and input and support. But that's not what drives me. They want me to be a thought leader. I love being a thought leader. I do it for free. Don't tell them that. But then I know I'm living my vision. I'm living my purpose every day.
Yeah, if you distill it down to that, then you'll enjoy what you're doing. And there's, you can be happy in the moment, but it takes a lot of work to be joyful. And so you found those pillars to kind of bring joy into what you want to do. So if you want to talk to people, you want to connect them, those are things that, give you a lot of energy. Mm-hmm. Is there anything else? I mean, I think we've covered a lot of different things. This podcast has been, I think, very educational. Is there anything else that comes to your mind that you want to discuss at all?
Well, I would say there is I believe I sent it to you already, a compilation of articles I've written both on my LinkedIn blog and on third-party publications like Inc. Magazine, sharing my stories of launching businesses, because I've founded 2 agencies, co-founded 2 agencies, founded or co-founded 2 entities, trade groups. So there's that early stage startup, and then there's the growth mode, there's the hiring employees, and then there's the leadership, and then there's the exit. And I have 3 or 4 categories of articles, and there's probably like 40 articles in there that I've written over the last 20 something years written over the last 5 to 10 years based on 25 plus years of experience. And I think they cover a lot of topics that entrepreneurs, solopreneurs are living every day. And I encourage them to use that resource if they find it helpful. And just a reminder, you're not alone, right? So don't try to do this on your own thinking you're tougher or smarter or better. Learn from other people's mistakes so you don't have to repeat them. That's the whole purpose of EO and other peer groups is problem solving and helping make more informed decisions before you make the wrong decisions. Because I've been experiencing this the last couple of months is there have been some ill-informed decisions that have had big impact regardless of the intent. And that's something I was coached on back in 1998. Hey, Kent, you're a great guy, you're really smart, you get this internet stuff, but you're like a puppy in a china shop and you keep knocking shit over and breaking it. And the impact is just the same as whether it was intentional or just your waggy happy tail. And I was like, wow. And I've taken that with me ever since. That was a long time ago. I had more energy and a lot less couth and tact. But I'm still largely the same person. So I think that's, I've learned these lessons. So never stop embracing those lessons, leaning into quick failures, and then ideally learning from the mistakes of others.
Yeah, and what we'll do is in our show notes, we'll include a link to that resource that you were mentioning. Great. And where can people find you online? So
the best place would probably be on the Twitter at Kent J. Lewis for just random streams of digital marketing information. If you want to be more focused on, more holistic professional career connection, LinkedIn would be definitely the best place to connect with me. And you can't miss me, just Kent Lewis on Google or Kent Lewis Anvil or Kent Lewis Deksia. I'll be there in LinkedIn. Connect with me. I'm happy to do that. And then just Deksia.com, DEKSIA.com or AnvilMediaInc.com. Tons of resources for you to learn and understand the stories, just help you rocket fuel your career.
Kent, again, thank you for the time today. It was good to catch up and learn about your progress into building Anvil and then recently selling it. I always like to end the show with, remember, you're not alone in life or business.